Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cha Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudive Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaye Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1, the Advent of Lord Krishna, Introduction, text number 4 onwards. So Parikshit Maharaj is further asking Shukdev Goswami, and he's glorifying the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And as I said, this is one of the very important verses. Nivrit tarshar upagiyamana bhavoshadhat shrotram mano abhirama ka uttam shlok gunanuvada tuman virajit vina pashugnat. Glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the Parampara system. That is, it is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing the repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who is killing his own self? So this is glorification, the glories of glorification of the Lord, that who will not be interested? Only those persons who are a butcher or one who's killing his own self. So let's see what Prabhupada says. In India, it is the practice among the general populace to hear about Krishna either from Bhagavad Gita or from Srimad Bhagavatam in order to gain relief from the disease of repeated birth and death. Although India is now fallen, when there is a message that someone will speak about Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, thousands of people still gather to hear. This verse indicates, however, that such recitation of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam must be done by persons completely freed from material desires. Nivrita Tarsha. So they are the only ones who can properly glorify the Lord. Everyone within this material world, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, is full of material desires for sense enjoyment. And everyone is busy in sense gratification. But when thus engaged, one cannot fully understand the value of Krishna Katha, either in the form of Bhagavad Gita or in Srimad Bhagavatam. So those who are engaged, and everybody is engaged in sense gratification, they cannot understand and they cannot relish actually Krishna Katha. If we hear the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from liberated persons, this hearing will certainly free us from the bondage of material activities. But hearing Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by a professional reciter cannot actually help us achieve liberation. Krishna Katha is very simple. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As he himself explains, Mattaha Paratram Nanyat. O Arjun, there is no truth superior to me. Simply by understanding this fact, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become a liberated person. So simply by understanding, even that is hard, looks like. But especially in this age of Kali, because people are interested in hearing Bhagavad Gita from unscrupulous persons who depart from the simple presentation of Bhagavad Gita and distort it for their personal satisfaction. They fail to derive the real benefit. There are big scholars, politicians, philosophers, and scientists who speak on Bhagavad Gita in their own polluted way. And people in general hear from them, being immersed in hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from a devotee. Being uninterested in hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from a devotee. A devotee is one who has no other motive for reciting Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam than to serve the Lord. So they don't have any ulterior motive. They don't have any motive of that I'll make money if I speak nicely, or if I speak to please the audience, I'll get more followers and more money and this and that. Prabhupada, how he spoke Bhagavatam, how he gave lectures. We all have seen that. We can hear those lectures. Again and again, Prabhupada, you all are fools and rascals. And the power of his devotion, power of his purity was such that people sat down, listened to him, followed him, served him, and their lives changed. And if we just speak to please the audience, to please the persons who sponsored our Bhagavad Gita recitation or Srimad Bhagavatam recitation or Bhagavatam Katha, who is going to change? Whose hearts are going to change? Even our hearts haven't changed. So very important. That's why it is said, we should not try to please Janta, we should be pleasing Janardhan. And when Janardhan is pleased by our recitation, by our Katha, Janta will be pleased. Sooner or later, Janta will be pleased. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore advised us to hear the glories of the Lord from a realized person. Bhagavad Paradiya Bhagavad Asthane. Unless one is personally a realized soul in the science of Krishna consciousness, a neophyte should not approach him to hear about the Lord. For this is strictly forbidden by Srila Sanatana Goswami, who quotes from the Padma Purana, Avaishnava Mukhodagiranam. One should avoid hearing from a person not situated in Vaishnava behavior. A Vaishnava is Nivritta Trishna, that is, he has no material purpose, or his only purpose is to preach Krishna consciousness. So-called scholars, philosophers, and politicians exploit the importance of Bhagavad Gita by distorting its meaning for their own purposes. Therefore, this verse warns that Krishna Katha should be recited by a person who is Nivrit Trishna. Now, I can say, and with full conviction, that I'm not Nivrit Trishna. I have plenty of material desires, and my heart is full of plenty of desires. But just trying to do this service for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. At his orders, we are trying to preach, trying to glorify the Lord. Hopefully, everybody is enjoying it. And hopefully Krishna is pleased, hopefully Prabhupada is pleased by some service I'm trying to do. Howsoever insincere I might be. Then slowly, these desires will go away. Shukdev Goswami epitomizes the proper recital for Srimad Bhagavatam, and Parikshit Maharaj purposefully left his kingdom and family prior to meeting death, epitomizes the person fit to hear it. A qualified reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right medicine, Bhava Oshadhi, for the conditioned souls. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to train qualified preachers to recite Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita throughout the entire world, so that people in general, in all parts of the world, may take advantage of this movement and thus be relieved of the threefold miseries of material existence. So this is the whole purpose of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, or the purpose of this movement, to relieve people of the threefold miseries and to eligible one to come back to God. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita and the descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam are so pleasing that almost anyone suffering from the threefold miseries of material existence will desire to hear the glories of the Lord from these books and thus benefit on the path of liberation. Two classes of men, however, will never be interested in hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are determined to commit suicide, and those determined to kill cows and other animals for the satisfaction of their own tongues. So those who are determined to commit suicide. Wow, that's a big statement. What Prabhupada says. Although such persons may make a show of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam at a Bhagavad Saptaha, This is but another creation of the karmis who cannot derive any benefit from such a performance. The word Pashughanat is important in this connection. Pashughana means butcher. Persons fond of performing ritualistic ceremonies for elevation to the higher planetary systems must offer sacrifices, yagyas, by killing animals. Lord Buddha Dev therefore rejected the authority of the Vedas because his mission was to stop animal sacrifices, which are recommended in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. So Lord Buddha Dev, he came to stop this unnecessary killing of animals in the name of sacrifices. Nindasi yagya vidher ahashruti jatam sadaya hridaya darshita pashughatam keshav dhrita buddha sharira jay jagadishare. Even though animal sacrifices are sanctioned in Vedic ceremonies, men who kill animals for such ceremonies are considered butchers. Butchers cannot be interested in Krishna consciousness, for they are already materially allured. Their only interest lies in developing comforts for the temporary body. Bhogeshwarya prasaktana. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and those who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So butchers or Pashughanat means those who want to kill animals. There were persons who wanted to kill animals for sacrifices. Now there are people all over the world killing animals for meat eating only. They are even worse. At least persons earlier, they were doing for animal sacrifice, not for meat eating only. But now people are just so inclined to meat eating, they cannot think of anything else. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Manushya Janam Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vishkaino. Anyone who's not Krishna conscious and who therefore does not engage in the service of the Lord is also Pashugna, for he is willingly drinking poison. So willingly drinking poison, and that is the word also came, who is committing suicide. Such a person cannot be interested in Krishna Katha because he still has a desire for material sense gratification. He is not Nivrit Krishna. As it is said, Traivargikaste Purusha Vimukha Hari Medasa. Those interested in three varga, that is Dharma, Artha and Kam, are religious for the sake of achieving a material position, which wish to gain better facilities for sense gratification. Such persons are killing themselves by willingly keeping themselves in the cycle of birth and death. They cannot be interested in Krishna consciousness. So this is the real suicide. Suicide is not just killing this material body. Real suicide is when we are not interested in uplifting this consciousness of this soul. Means we are keeping the soul here in the material world. So this is called spiritual suicide actually. So means the soul is supposed to go back to the spiritual world, and we are keeping it here. Keeping it here to make it suffer more and more and more and more. Thinking this is the best way of living. Actually, this is suicide. And butcher, when we call word butcher, butcher is also, yes, one who kills the animals, but also one who is not letting the soul grow. Hinsa means to stop one's progress. When we kill an animal, we are committing hinsa. When we're killing a human being, we are committing hinsa. Means we are stopping its progress, stopping its cycle, stopping its life. But we are stopping the soul from making progress, which is a right path for the soul. So that is also hinsa, and that is worse hinsa. But that is what people in the material world are doing. So they are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Everywhere you read magazines or newspapers, or people are making plans after plans after plans after plans. If you go to our offices, HR department will be after, okay, what is your goal, and goal setting is there, and whatever the deadlines and the project reports and this or that. So many plans are there. Political parties have their plans, and the industrialists have their plans, and movie stars have their plans. Everybody is making plans. For what? Killing their souls. How best we can kill our souls. Of course, soul cannot be killed, but how best we can stop the progress of the soul on the spiritual path. That is the plan. But Krishna is Krishna. He is there to stop these plans. So put him, like they say, monkey wrench in these plans. Corona, he sends Corona. Okay, now you deal with this Corona, and still you think you can meet your deadlines and the status reports and the goal settings and this and that. So even in that, we think by setting our goals, considering Corona and considering working from home, considering lockdowns, considering the slow economy, we're still making plans, and then we are happy among ourselves. Okay, my company grew so much despite the restrictions and despite all the problems, and we are happy, we are clapping, and what is this? It's nonsense. But this is what everybody is saying. Simply willingly keeping themselves in the cycle of birth and death. For Krishna Katha topics about Krishna consciousness, there must be a speaker and a hearer, both of whom can be interested in Krishna consciousness. If they're no longer interested in material topics, one can actually see how this attitude automatically develops in persons who are Krishna conscious. Although the devotees of the Krishna conscious movement are quite young men, they no longer read materialistic newspapers, magazines, and so on, for they are no longer interested in such topics. Nivrit Tarsha. They completely give up the barley understanding of life. For topics concerning Uttam Shloka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master speaks and the disciple hears with attention. Unless both of them are free from material desires, they cannot be interested in topics of Krishna consciousness. The spiritual master and disciple do not need to understand anything more than Krishna, because simply by understanding Krishna and talking about Krishna, one becomes a perfectly learned person. That's all we need to do. Simply talk about Krishna and understand Krishna. That's all. Nothing else is important. The Lord sits within everyone's heart, and by the grace of the Lord, the devotee receives instructions directly from the Lord himself, provided we are ready to get those instructions. We are ready to, our heart, our consciousness, our mind is ready to receive those instructions. So we have to make our heart ready. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishta. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Krishna consciousness is so exalted that one who is perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the spiritual master is fully satisfied by reading Krishna Katha as found in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar Vedic literatures. Since merely talking about Krishna is so pleasing, we can simply imagine how pleasing it is to surrender service to Krishna. Of course, talking about Krishna is also a service to Krishna, but there are plenty of other services that one can render. So this is nothing but pleasure, 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 and pleasure. When discourses on Krishna Katha take place between a liberated spiritual master and his disciple. Others also sometimes take advantage of hearing these topics and also benefit. Just like when Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj was sitting and discussing, there were so many other people in the audience. Narad Muni, Ved Vyas, Rishis, this, that, so many people. These topics are the medicine to stop the repetition of birth and death. The cycle of repeated birth and death, by which one takes on different bodies again and again, is called bhava or bhavaroga. And this cycle has to be stopped. And if one is, like it is said, when one goes home, Panthasva Sharanam Yatha, means all his miseries are gone and he is satisfied, he is happy. When we are at home, like if we are traveling, and after traveling, when we come home, we feel completely satisfied, relieved. So the point is, if material world is our home, then why we are in distress? Why we are in the misery? Why we are suffering here? So this is not our home. Our home is spiritual world. We just have to stop the cycle of birth and death here and go back home, back to God, to be completely free from all these miseries. That's why it's called Vaikuntha. No kuntha, no problems, no miseries, no distresses. So there's a purpose. If anyone willingly or unwillingly hears Krishna Katha, his bhavaroga, the disease of birth and death, will certainly stop. Therefore, Krishna Katha is called Bhava Oshudha, the remedy to stop the repetition of birth and death. Karmis, a person attached to material sense enjoyment, generally cannot give up their material desires. But Krishna Katha is such a potent medicine that if one is induced to hear Krishna Kirtan, he will certainly be freed from this disease. So the karmis generally don't want to give up material desires, and nobody wants to, because this is what keeps them going. This is what makes them work, make them get up in the morning, work hard throughout the day, and come back at home at night and think, I've made this much money, I made that progress, and I am working on my goal. But Krishna Katha is such a potent medicine that if one is inducted to hear Krishna Katha, Kirtan, he will certainly be freed from this disease. It's called disease. And when one is diseased, it means he's not healthy. He cannot think properly. He cannot eat properly. He cannot sleep properly. He cannot perform his activities properly. We might say my body is healthy, but it's not healthy because this material disease is there, and proper eating, proper hearing, proper sleeping, proper working is when we do it for Krishna. A practical example is Dhruva Maharaj, who at the end of his tapasya was fully satisfied. When the Lord wanted to give Dhruva a benediction, Dhruva refused it. Swamin Kritarthasmi Varam Nayache. My dear Lord, he said, I am fully satisfied. I do not ask for any benediction for material sense gratification. We actually see that even young boys and girls in the Krishna consciousness movement have given up their long practice of bad habits like illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Because Krishna consciousness is so potent that it gives them full satisfaction. They're no longer interested in material sense gratification. And this is the potency of Krishna Katha, Krishna consciousness. And this is why Parikshit Maharaj, sitting there for so many days, now the 10th canto has started, so must be there maybe for 5 days now. And he's still sitting there and eagerly hearing and want to hear more and more from Shukdev Goswami. He wants to know more, he wants to hear more about Krishna now. And now he wants to hear about his grandfathers also. Pita Mahame Samre Amaran Jaya Deva Vritta Dyatir Rathas Timingala Duratyayam Kaurav Sanya Sagaram Kritva Taran Vatsa Padam Smayat Pallava Dronastra viplushtam idam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopakukshim gat atatak chakro matushchameyah sharanam gataya वीर्याणि तस्याखिल देह भाजां अंतर्बहि पुरुष काल रूपः प्रयच्छतो मृत्युम उतामृतं च माया मनुष्यस्य वदस्व विद्वन्. Taking the boat of Krishna's lotus feet, my grandfather Arjun and others crossed the ocean of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which such commanders as Bhishma Dev resembled great fish that could very easily have swallowed them. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, my grandfathers crossed this ocean, which was very difficult to cross, as easily as one steps over the hoof print of a calf. Because my mother surrendered unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, the Lord Sudarshan Chakra in hand entered her womb and saved my body, the body of the last remaining descendant of Kurus and the Pandavas, which was almost destroyed by the fiery weapon of Ashwatthama. Lord Shri Krishna, appearing within and outside of all materially embodied living beings, by his own potency in the form of eternal time, that is, as Paramatma and as Virat Rupa, gave liberation to everyone, either as cruel death or as life. Kindly enlighten me by describing his transcendental characteristics. So Parikshit Maharaj knew what happened, but he wants to hear more. And also these katha are so satisfying, so nectarian, that we hear them over and over and over again, and still we're not satisfied. They're so nectarian. Bhagavad Gita, like Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said, one should read Bhagavad Gita 108 times. And we'll say, what? Bhagavad Gita, it's so boring. It's only karma and gyan and the knowledge of the soul and so many things. It's lots of philosophy. But when we read it over and over again, we'll definitely realize new meanings out of it. And we'll relish it more and more. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Samashitaye pad pallava pallavam mahat padam punya yasho murare. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is a shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Murari, or the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. His goal is Param Padam or Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So this Bhavasagar, the ocean of the material world, how big it becomes? Like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. The calf's hoof print is almost like 1.5 inches in diameter. That big. The Bhavasagar becomes that small an ocean. And one can easily cross over it. And when does that happen? When one is surrendered, one has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. How poetically Shukdev Goswami has said this. One who seeks shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna is immediately protected by the Lord. As the Lord promises in Bhagavad Gita, Aham tvam sarva papebhya mokshishyami narmashucha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. By taking shelter of Lord Krishna, one comes under the safest protection. Thus, when the Pandavas took shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, all of them were on the safe side of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Parikshit Maharaj therefore felt obliged to think of Krishna in the last days of his life. This is the ideal result of Krishna consciousness. Ante Narayana Smriti. If at the time of death one can remember Krishna, one's life is successful. Parikshit Maharaj, therefore, because of his many obligations to Krishna, intelligently decided to think of Krishna constantly during the last days of his life. So Parikshit Maharaj, he is hearing Krishna Katha. He knew he has only 7 days left. And he is spending every single moment of those 7 days in hearing about Krishna, in thinking about Krishna, in talking about Krishna. And as Prabhupada said at one place, Parikshit Maharaj had guaranteed 7 days left. We don't have guaranteed even 7 minutes. So how sincere we must be in our hearing and chanting and all our Krishna conscious activities. We should be more sincere than Parikshit Maharaj actually. Krishna had saved the Pandavas, Maharaj Parikshit's grandfathers, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna had saved Maharaj Parikshit himself when he was attacked by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. Krishna acted as a friend and worshipable deity of the Pandav family. Moreover, apart from Lord Krishna's personal contact with the Pandavas, Krishna is a super soul of all living entities, and he gives everyone liberation, even if one is not a pure devotee. Kansa, for example, was not at all a devotee, yet Krishna, after killing him, gave him salvation, liberation. Krishna consciousness is beneficial to everyone, whether one is a pure devotee or a non-devotee. This is the glory of Krishna consciousness. And material consciousness is not at all beneficial for everyone, whether one is poor or one is rich, whether one is successful or unsuccessful. Next life, we all have to start from the same platform. So whatever pious, impious activities we do, we get the results, we get the reactions, and we just keep going. It's unbeneficial. But Krishna consciousness, completely beneficial for everybody. Considering this, who will not take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna? Krishna is described in this verse as Maya Manushya because he descends exactly like a human being. He is not obliged to come here like karmis or ordinary living beings. Rather, he appears by his own internal energy, just to show favor to the fallen conditioned souls. Krishna is always situated in his original position as Satchidananda Vigraha. And anyone who renders service to him is also situated in his original spiritual identity. This is the highest perfection of human life. So Krishna is always situated in his original position, in his transcendental divine position. And when we render service unto him, so we are also situated in the same original spiritual identity. So it says we continue, we carry on rendering service unto him. We stop our services to Maya, and we are just situated in our position properly. Rohinya's Tanaya Prokto, Rama Sankarshanas Tvaya, Devakya Garbha Sambandha, Kuto Dehantaram Vina. My dear Shukdev Goswami, you have already explained that Sankarshan, who belongs to the second quadruple, appeared as a son of Rohini named Balaram. If Balaram was not transferred from one body to another, how is it possible that he was first in the womb of Devaki and then in the womb of Rohini? Kindly explain this to me. Here is a question particularly directing at understanding Balaram, who is Sankarshan himself. Balaram is well known as the son of Rohini, yet it is also known that he was the son of Devaki. Parikshit Maharaj wanted to understand the mystery of Balaram's being the son of both Devaki and Rohini. Because in one shloka, it is mentioned the names of all the 8 sons of Devaki. And Balaram was the 7th. So Shukdev Goswami was hearing very carefully. So how come Balaram is son of Devaki, but although we know him as the son of Rohini? Kasvan Mukundo Bhagwan Pitur Gehad Vrajam Gataha Kva Vasam Gyatibhi Sardham Kritvan Satvatam Patihi. Why did Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, leave the house of his father Vasudeva and transfer himself to the house of Nanda in Vrindavan? Where did the Lord, the master of the Yadu dynasty, live with his relatives in Vrindavan? These are inquiries about the itinerary of Krishna. Just after his birth in the house of Vasudeva in Mathura, Krishna transferred himself to Gokul on the other side of the Yamuna. And after some days, he moved with his father, mother, and other relatives to Nandagram, Vrindavan. Maharaj Parikshit was very much eager to hear about Krishna's activities in Vrindavan. This entire canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is full of activities performed in Vrindavan and Dwarka. The first 40 chapters describes Krishna's Vrindavan affairs. And the next 50 describe Krishna's activities in Dwarka. Maharaj Parikshit, to fulfill his desire to hear about Krishna, requested Shukdev Goswami to describe these activities in full detail. Of course, Shukdev Goswami doesn't go in full detail, still, because Krishna's pastimes are unlimited. So whatever he could cover. And as Prabhupada said, there are 40 plus 50, so total 90 chapters in this canto. 90 chapters. There are 4 books actually in this canto that Prabhupada has given. Vraje vasan kim karon madhupuryam chakeshva bhratram chavadit kansam matur uddhata darhanam. Lord Krishna lived both in Vrindavan and in Mathura. What did he do there? Why did he kill Kansa, his mother's brother? Such killing is not at all sanctioned in the Shastras. One's maternal uncle, the brother of one's mother, is on the level of one's father. When a maternal uncle has no son, his nephew legally inherits his property. Therefore, why did Krishna directly kill Kansa, the brother of his mother? Maharaj Parikshit was very much inquisitive about the facts in this regard. Deham manusham ashritya kati varshani vrishnibi yaduparyam saha vatsit patanya katya bhavan prabhu. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, yet he appears as a human being. For how many years did he live with the descendants of Vrishni? How many wives did he marry? And for how many years did he live in Dwarka? In many places, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Satchidananda Vigraha, possessing a spiritual, blissful body. His bodily feature is Narakriti, that is exactly like that of a human being. Here the same idea is repeated in the words Manusham Ashritya, which indicate that he accepts a body exactly like that of a man. Everywhere it is confirmed that Krishna is never Nirakar or formless. He has his form exactly like that of a human being. There is no doubt about this. So he has a form like of a human being, but is not a ordinary, a regular human being. That's what previous verses he says. His body is Satchidananda Vigraha. He is made of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. We are made of all this: earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, soul, subtle body, and the gross body, and this and that. Krishna, inside, outside, is the same. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. That's all. Now somebody will ask, how come in Satchidananda he has thoughts and he has emotions? Why not? Because our experience is limited. So we think only because I have mind, I can have thoughts. So why not in the spiritual body there can be mind? There is spiritual mind, spiritual emotions, spiritual ego, spiritual mouth, spiritual eyes, spiritual hands, spiritual legs. Everything is spiritual. So the thoughts are all spiritual. Walking is spiritual. Talking is spiritual. And as Vallabhacharya in his beautiful Madhurashtakam, he said, everything is sweet. His coming is sweet, his going is sweet, his eating is sweet, his sleeping is sweet, his walking, his talking, his killing, everything is sweet. Madhuradhipatir akhilam madhuram. Akhilam madhuram. Everything is sweet about Krishna. Can we say everything is sweet about us? No. for Krishna, everything is sweet. And not just regular sweet, it's transcendental sweet. Etat anyaccha sarvam me mune Krishna vicheshtitam vaktam arhasi sarvagya shradhanaya vistritam. O great sage who know everything about Krishna, please describe in detail all the activities of which I have inquired and also those which I have not. For I have full faith and I am very eager to hear of them. So Maharaj Parikshit very humbly is accepting and admitting his limitations. He's saying, whatever I have inquired, please describe, but you know much more than I can ask, so please describe everything, which even I have not asked. Neshati dusaha kshunmam tyaktodam api badhate vivantam tvanmukham bhoja achyutam harikatham ritam. Because of my woe on the verge of death, I have given up even drinking water, yet because I'm drinking the nectar of topics about Krishna, which is flowing from the lotus mouth of your Lordship, my hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. To prepare to meet death in 7 days, Maharaj Parikshit gave up all food and drink. As a human being, he was certainly both hungry and thirsty, and therefore Shukdev Goswami might have wanted to stop narrating the transcendental topics of Krishna, but which, despite this fast, Maharaj Parikshit was not at all fatigued. The hunger and thirst from my fast do not disturb me, he said. Once when I felt very thirsty, I went to the ashram of Shamik Muni to drink water, but the Muni did not supply it. I therefore wrapped a dead snake over his shoulder, and that is why I was cursed by the Brahman boy. Now, however, I'm quite fit. I'm not at all disturbed by my hunger and thirst. This indicates that although on the material platform there are disturbances from hunger and thirst, on the spiritual platform, there is no such thing as fatigue. And this is shown by devotees over and over. Shad Goswamis, 6 Goswamis, among them especially Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, although they were high ministers in the ministry of Nawab Hussain Shah, in the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah, but when they left everything, they went to Vrindavan and they engaged themselves fully in chanting and going and bringing out the places of pastimes of Krishna and in writing books and in talking to Brajvasis, so much so that they would hardly be sleeping every day, only about half an hour or so. That's it. They were not tired. They didn't need to. Everything was taken care of by these spiritual practices. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was drinking every other day, not even every day, every other day, a little buttermilk. That's all. He was not eating anything. He was not drinking anything. And every day he would be chanting 2 lakh names of Krishna, and he would be paying obeisances 1,000 times to the deities and 2,000 times to the Vaishnavas. And he would be writing books, reading books every day and not feeling tired. So this explains. So one who makes progress in the spiritual path is all these 4 activities that are common to all material living beings: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. All the requirements for these activities, they go down automatically. It's not that if I stop eating or if I reduce my eating, then I'm making spiritual progress. Not necessarily so. But if I'm making spiritual progress, all these activities, the desires or the inclination or the necessity goes down automatically. The entire world is suffering because of spiritual thirst. Every living being is Brahman or spirit soul and needs spiritual food to satisfy his hunger and thirst. Unfortunately, however, the world is completely unaware of the nectar of Krishna Katha. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore a boon to philosophers, religionists, and people in general. There is certainly a charming attraction in Krishna and Krishna Katha. Therefore, the absolute truth is called Krishna, the most attractive. That's the literal meaning of word Krishna, most attractive or all attractive. The word Amrit is also an important reference to the moon, and the word Ambuja means lotus. The pleasing moonshine and pleasing fragrance of the lotus combine to bring pleasure to everyone hearing Krishna Katha from the mouth of Shukdev Goswami. As it is said, Matirna Krishna Parata Sutova. Because of the uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instruction of others or by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. At the present moment, all of human society is engaged in the business of chewing the chewed. People are prepared to undergo Mrityu Samsara Vartamani, taking birth in one form, dying, accepting another form, and dying again. To stop this repetition of birth and death, Krishna Katha or Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary. But unless one hears Krishna Katha from a realized soul, like Shukdev Goswami, one cannot relish the nectar of Krishna Katha, which puts an end to all material fatigue, and enjoy the blissful life of transcendental existence. In relation to the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that those who have tasted the nectar of Krishna Katha lose all material desires, whereas those who cannot understand Krishna or Krishna Katha regard the Krishna conscious life as brainwashing and mind control. While the devotees enjoy spiritual bliss, the non-devotees are surprised that the devotees have forgotten their material hankerings. So actually both of them, devotees, non-devotees, call each other, they're crazy. Devotees call them crazy because they know they're not devotees. So karmis are just wasting their time. And karmis call devotees crazy. Oh guys, you should be making money and enjoying this life. But they don't understand devotees are enjoying this life. But the enjoyment is spiritual. That's all. And there's plenty of things to enjoy. So much so that the devotees even forget to eat or drink or sleep because there's no need. I wish I could do that. but by Prabhupada's mercy, as Prabhupada said, continue. Keep on doing it. Srimad Bhagavatam Sevaya Nitya. And one day, slowly we'll develop some taste for hearing and chanting. So from next verse onwards, Sutta Goswami is going to start speaking. So we'll stop here and take up that tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble wishes. Prabhuji has started Bhagavad Gita classes.
Yeah, I started it today. It's going to be every Saturday.
Oh, okay.
I'll send them. I'll post the message on the group.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful. Any question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare